Right, everyone, welcome back. This is a little bit of an impulse reading, so I didn't do any prep beforehand. I'm not even properly situated yet. But before we begin, I'm going to start with a prayer, as I always do before I give readings. So grab your tea, grab your coffee. I've got myself some hemp tea from Tea Tonic in Australia here. Delicious. All right, quick prayer. Right out of the gate, this group is a really mystical group. First thing I was told, this is a group of mystics. This collective is a group of mystics. This collective, they are a group of people who have lived many lifetimes. You know this. This is not new information. You resonate with the concept of mysticism or the term mystic, okay? It's a term that I personally use to describe myself as well. So this collective is really in tune with that vibe, really in tune with that idea, but they've been lost, right? This collective has been lost. You've felt like you're not in place anywhere. You felt like things aren't working out. You felt like you were beating your head against a brick wall. Okay, this collective has felt like anytime they were trying to talk or try to share something, whether it be spiritual or not, that they are talking to a brick wall, right? You're beating your head against a brick wall. You're talking to a brick wall. No one's listening. No one cares. No one is paying attention to you. Okay, that's what this collective is feeling, okay, or has felt or has been feeling recently. If this is for some of you, and I'm so sorry if this is the case for some of you, this has been your entire upbringing, right? This has been your upbringing, and I really resonate with that because I do feel like a lot of my upbringing was a lot of people not listening to me, right? Not paying attention, not caring, not listening, belittling, right? Is the other word I'm getting here, belittling. Right? Feeling belittled, feeling like you weren't enough, being told that you weren't enough, being told that your dreams were unreasonable, being told that you can't achieve anything you want to achieve. Okay, you guys might have been dreamers, you might have had big aspirations, and that was, I'm hearing beat out of you, right? For some of you that might have involved physical abuse, and I'm so sorry if that's the case. But for some of you that also was just, I say just, and I'm not trying to minimize the pain that this has caused by any stretch of the imagination. But for some of you, this was mental, right? Beating it out of you was a lot of mental manipulation. It was a lot of projections that were placed on you. It was a lot of projections that were put on you. It was a lot of things that were placed on you by people who had insecurities and they didn't know how to deal with them. We're going to leave that there. They didn't know how to deal with them. They didn't know what to do with them. They didn't know what it was about. So we got water, right? So water signs might be important. You might have a lot of water signs who unfortunately might have been manipulative, might have been towards you. You might be a water sign. You might be really sensitive, okay? In fact, hold on. Let me back this up a second. I'm getting ahead of myself. This collective is sensitive. When I say sensitive, there's two kind of meanings of sensitive, okay? There's sensitive in terms of your spirituality, your intuition, okay? There's also sensitive in terms of your emotional state, right? And I don't want to say that this in a demonizing way of oh, this collective might be sensitive in terms of your emotional state, but that's not in a for some of you this is going to be pretty triggering, right? Because you were told this, and anytime you were told, oh well, you're sensitive, it was in a demoting way. This is more of in an empowering way, right? But they used it in a demoting way. They used it in a way that was designed to not be for the highest and greatest good of your health, of your well-being, of your spiritual development, of your spiritual health, okay? It's happening for you, not to you. Yeah. Yeah. I think that a lot of people have felt in this collective that things in their life that have occurred, the bullying, the belittling, the manipulation, emotional manipulation, people projecting their onto you. There's this feeling almost of, you know, why was this happening to me? You know, why was this happening? What was this doing? You know, all this, right? And there's this sense of, okay, well, but like, why, right? I think that what you need to understand, and that's part of why we have Grow the F Up coming up. Oops, sorry. Okay, is there's a little bit of a childish response here due to a lack of healing. Oh yeah, definitely. This is a triggering message. You're not gonna like this, but there's a lack of inner child healing with this collective. Not because you don't know how to do it, but because you refuse to do it, is what I'm hearing. It's not that you don't know, it's not that you don't have the ability, it's not that you aren't aware that this is something you need. You are very aware. This collective is very aware that they should be healing their inner child. This collective is very aware that this is causing them problems. They are refusing to, and that's why this card came up, right? It's not because you don't have a foot in reality. It's not because you're being a child. It's because you're refusing to do the work. You're not you're not growing up. You want to pretend like you have developed, but how can you develop when you refuse to do one of the most important parts of your journey? When you refuse to actively acknowledge the pain of your inner child, when you refuse to go through that. Some of you are really scared of that, right? And that's why. What's the worst that could happen? In reality, right? Stop catastrophizing. Okay, stop catastrophizing. Stop catastrophizing. Oh my gosh, like this collective, that this is why the water came up. This is why the water came up. Because I feel like the vast majority of people in this have either a lot of water placements within their chart astrologically, or they themselves are a water sign. And y'all, let me just explain something here for a minute. What I've noticed with people who are really intuitive and are water signs is they tend to fall into one of two categories, okay? The first category is that they are like continuously healing, like almost to the extent of it being toxic, because they don't give themselves time to really adjust to it. Or they are unfortunately kind of like the energy of this collective here, where you know what needs to be done and you refuse to do it. And then you want to know how come there's no change happening, right? You want to know how come nothing's changed, how come nothing has, how come I'm not reaching my goals, how come I'm not reaching my dreams, how come this isn't occurring, right? This is the thing here, right? Open the heart space, okay? The fastest way to open the heart space, right, is to be childlike. It's to heal the inner child. Children, when you watch them, when you look at children, they do not actively, go and seek any level of hatred. Children are so innocent. They don't know to be hateful. They don't know to be despiseful. And that's why, for those of you who resonate with having in your childhood family, parents especially, guardians, maybe grandparents who were very belittling and very emotionally manipulative, that's part of the reason why this work is so hard. But just because the work is hard, it doesn't mean you avoid it, okay? And the worst part is that I'm being told that this collective, a large portion of you were told to avoid it. You were told, like, you went to therapy, for example, or you did something and you were told that you should avoid doing this. And in fact, in reality, you should be doing the exact opposite of what you were told. That's the reality of it. And you know that, like deep down, you know it. But there's also a portion of this collective that just seeks seeks information that validates their current state of being. Okay, where's your aura? Where's your energy? Where are you placing your energy? This is in a variety of ways, right? Where is your aura actually? Like, right? Where's your aura? How far out is it? Bring that aura in, bring that energy in. But also, where are you placing your energy? Are you placing your energy into developing into the strongest, most empowered version of you that you could possibly be? Or are you stuck in this victim mindset? Okay, are you stuck in this victim mindset? Are you stuck in the drama? Are you stuck in the who's doing what and who's saying what? And, you know, I need constantly needing validation, right? Get outside, right? Reconnect to nature, ground yourself. This collective definitely needs to ground themselves as well, right? Definitely, this collective needs to ground themselves. Top card, bottom card, cut the deck, middle card. It's really interesting because I looked at the bottom of the deck earlier and this card, the Sage, was there, right? We have self-love here with the peacock coming out, okay? Self-love, right? Focusing on loving yourself, right? Focusing on your self-image, creating confidence, making confidence, right? This only comes in an empowered state. You cannot have self-love in a victim mindset. You cannot have a self-love in a state of being disempowered. So how are you going to go about empowering yourself? What is the shadow work that you need to do? A lot of you need to do that shadow work. And I mean legitimately do it, not claim you're doing it and avoid doing it, you know, or start doing it, but not follow it through. You need to actually do the work, right? You need to set the boundaries. This is going to be really hard for this collective. I'm told that setting boundaries is going to be really, really difficult for this collective because you have been conditioned by either co-workers or friends or family to not have boundaries. You've been conditioned that boundaries are bad, that boundaries, you know, are selfish. That's been your conditioning, is that, oh, if you have boundaries, then you're a selfish person. That's not the case at all here. There's a sense of you need to set those boundaries because you're not going to heal when you're allowing other people's energy to bombard you. All right. That's why you also have the Sage here, right? The Sage can't be the Sage without having the empowerment, the love, and the boundaries in place. They can't open and evolve into this. And I think that this collective does want to evolve. I think you do want to evolve here. I do also want to say right now that this card, this the Sage card here, is reminding me of the Two of Swords in tarot. If you look at the Rider-Waite tarot deck at the Two of Swords, it's a woman who is kneeling on the ground and she's blindfolded and she has her arms crossed and there is a sword in each arm. And what the woman doesn't realize is that if she were to let go of the swords and she were to put them by her side, because there's nothing stopping her from doing that, and remove the blindfold, she can get up off the ground and she can go about her way. Okay, that's the energy I'm getting here, is that Two of Swords energy. Okay, put down the swords, put down the things that are holding you. It's not actually physically holding you back. It's a mental game that you're playing. And I'm not sure many of you realize that it's very mental. I'm not sure many of you realize that this is actually very much a mental game. This is a mental game that's going on. It's not something physically. You're not physically stopping. There's physically nothing that's preventing you from reaching the goals that you're trying to reach. It is a mindset shift that needs to occur. Once that mindset shifts, once you do that healing, once you heal the inner child, once you start setting those boundaries, once you start putting up and gaining that confidence in yourself, surrounding yourself with people who are going to fill you with that confidence, then you're going to actually be able to move into the next chapter. But there's nothing physically preventing you. It's not the money or the lack of money. It's not how much knowledge you have or the lack of knowledge you have. It's not, you know, how many books you've read or the books you didn't read. It is 100% a mindset game that you are playing. And ultimately, you just need to drop the swords. It's really that simple. And I know that that seems super simple, but it's really that simple. And this collective, my heart really goes out to this collective. You know, I can definitely empathize with a lot of this because I've had a lot of these same situations occur in my own life. But there's definitely a sense of like, you need to just get out of this victim mindset. You just need to go. Like, enough is enough, right? You need to, withdraw, right? You need to go into that hermit mode, right? You need to actually do the healing. And I mean, like, legitimately do the uncomfortable work, legitimately have the tears, legitimately do the things, legitimately, shadow work. I just pulled the shadow card, right? Doing the work. You need to meet your shadow in a deep, dark alley somewhere, and you need to have a face off with it. And I know that sounds really harsh, and I know that for some of you, like, oh my gosh, that's really violent, but that's the reality. It's not pretty work. Some of you have been really misled. Okay, some of you have been really misled in thinking that spiritual work is, in fact, this like really nice, really gentle, you know, way of living. And that's why you decided to come into spirituality or into this more new age environment, is because you thought that this was going to be like, oh, a spiritual, you know, you liked the aesthetic of it. But spiritual work, legitimate spiritual work, is messy. And I'm sorry for those of you that were misled by other people in this community who were trying to convince you that you don't have to do the work and you can just spiritually bypass everything. That's not the reality. That's not going to hold for very long. And for those people, it doesn't hold for very long either. You need to do the work. You need to meet yourself in a dark alley in the worst moment of your life, and you need to acknowledge that and turn to it and still say, I love you. You need to do that work. You can't transition into the master manifester, the sage, the healer, without going through the healing yourself, without knowing what it's like to really want to be alone. Not to feel lonely, not to be placed alone, but to go and seek alone time, to go and seek that loneliness. That's not even what I wanted to say. I don't know why I was saying seek loneliness. I meant seek that alone time. That's interesting wording. That might apply to someone, that some of you are seeking loneliness because you're punishing yourself for something, right? Something in your past, right? But you need to do the shadow. You need to meet your shadow, okay? You need to do the work. It's that simple. And that doesn't mean you can't give yourself grace, and it doesn't mean you can't give yourself, you know, compassion and love. In fact, you should be giving yourself during shadow work grace, compassion, and love. But there is a definite message here of you have to stop avoiding doing the work. It's not holding. It's just not. It can't hold. You've got to actually put in the effort, put in the time, and be in reality, to be there. Right? For some of you, it's going to take a lot of long walks outside, I'm told. Some of you are going to want to meditate outside. Some of you would benefit from journaling outside. It's going to help to keep your energy grounded. A lot of you have knowledge. A lot of you have spent a lot of time collecting knowledge on a lot of different concepts, but you haven't spent time putting it into practice. You know what shadow work is, but you haven't done it. You know what grounding is, but you don't do it regularly. You know what meditation is, but you don't do it in practice. There's a message here of enough is enough. You have to put it in practice now. If you want to move forward, you have to put it in practice, right? Enough is enough of this, right? Get out of the victim mindset. This collective, yeah, you guys do struggle with the victim mentality, unfortunately. And I would say it's not 100% your fault, but it is in the sense that you haven't changed. And it's not that you don't know how to change. It's not that you don't know what to do to change. It's that you have chosen not to change. This was a choice that you made. And you can argue with me, and many of you are watching this right now and you are arguing with me right now. No, it wasn't a choice. No, you don't understand my circumstances. You don't understand what I've been through. You haven't a clue. You haven't been through what I've been through. You don't know what my life was like growing up. You don't know what I see. You don't know what I hear. You're right, I don't. So there is enough is enough. Quit creating drama to make yourself feel needed. Quit creating drama to bring people to you. Quit creating drama to make yourself feel, you know, higher up, right? Projections. Yeah, there's a lot of projections. There's a lot of people who projected on you, and unfortunately now there is you projecting on other people, and finally let it go. Let it go. There's a place and a time and a place for everything. I don't know why I actually repeated that place. For some of you, there's a physical location that you need to let go of. For some of you, there's like a physical location that you need to say, okay, I'm going to stop here. But you need to let it go. Let go of the past. Let go of the hurt from the past. Heal the hurt. Not just let it go, but actually work through the emotions that you didn't work through during that time. Heal it. And then say, I don't need this anymore. It's not serving you anymore. Why are you holding on to things that are not serving you? Why are you holding on to things that are stopping you from reaching where you want to go? Some of you asked for a sign of what you should do next. And I'm hearing, this is your sign. This is your sign. Someone needs to hear the phrase, God has spoken. I don't know why I was told, but I was told someone needs to hear the phrase like, God has spoken. But God has spoken. This is your sign. This is your sign. There's nothing further. I'm not even sure how many of you are going to actually make it to this part, because there is a really strong avoidance energy with this collective. There's a really strong energy of not wanting to acknowledge this, not wanting to deal with it, not wanting to work through it, wanting to justify your actions and where you are through spiritual bypassing, and a lot of like TikToks or a lot of Instagrams that have promoted this thus far. And now somehow you've ended up on this video, which is telling you literally the exact opposite. Not just the exact opposite, but being a little bit harsh. You know, some of you need to hear it in a little bit more of like a, hey, wake up. Wake up, you know? They're showing me like snapping your fingers. Like, get out of it. Do it now. What are you waiting for? What's stopping you? Nothing. Move on. That's all. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to wish you all the best. I hope you go on this healing journey, because trust me, as hard as it's going to be so worth it. And maybe some of you, I'll see you in another video. Bye.